Do you find yourself searching, yearning for more, but you don't know what that more is? I'm Catherine Duncan, near-death survivor, mystic, and intuitive. Welcome to Everyday Awakening. On this podcast, I explore what it means to be alive. I help you awaken into your soul and live fully now. Through inspiring conversations, we'll dive into mindfulness, spirituality, and the transformative power of presence and living aligned with this universal energy. Together, we'll examine life's biggest questions, and I'll share practical wisdom to help you open your heart and awaken to the preciousness of being alive. Honored today to share with you my conversation with my friend Kimberly Meredith. Kimberly Meredith is a world-renowned celebrity medical intuitive, psychic, medium, speaker, holistic practitioner, and healer. She is the best-selling author of the book Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, Discovering the Soul's Path to Healing. Kimberly's journey is nothing short of miraculous. After surviving 2 near-death experiences, she had an incredible encounter with God, awakening extraordinary healing abilities through the Holy Spirit. And afterwards, she underwent testing with world-renowned Dr. Norm Shealy, a well-known neurosurgeon, founder of the American Holistic Medical Association. And he conducted studies and concluded that she emits scalar energy and can heal even through walls. Join us as we dive into Kimberly's incredible story, her divine connection, and can help every one of us awaken. Welcome to the show, Kimberly.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me here today.
Absolutely. I just want to start by saying I have a vivid memory of meeting you for the first time on Instagram Live. You were having a pop-up Instagram Live, and I had read your book, Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, and then I saw it and I popped in, and next thing you know, you and I spoke, and I felt a heart connection to you the moment we started speaking, and it was just lovely. And then you had me join an event this last wintertime, a Christmas event, which was super fun. But I felt a soul connection with you from the moment we started talking with each other.
Yeah, I do feel that too. It's really great to have you on our event. We do that Mother Mary Divine Calling in the Christ Consciousness event monthly, and you were really very gracious to come on that. So we're really happy to have you there.
It was great. And boy, you had a lot of people on, a lot of people just so interested, asking incredibly interesting questions. Well, I love to start by talking about your book, Awakening to the Fifth Dimension, and you share that you've had 2 near-death experiences. Can you start there and share with everyone listening these experiences you had, these near-death experiences that were life-changing?
Yeah, the book came about after the near-death experiences, which sort of awakened up the abilities that I had when I was born. I was born with abilities, psychic abilities. I had these abilities, just like you're born with talent as a singer, writer. I was born with abilities. So I was experiencing paranormal abilities when I was as young as 6 months old. It talks about that in the book. I have these abilities. So every person has, I believe, a gift. When I was little, as young as 6 months old, I was blinking. So my abilities as a psychic medium, and I'm a trance channeler, is through my blinking eyes, and I hear spirit through my left ear. Awakened fully after my 2 near-death experiences, but I had them when I was little and I pushed them away. But I was experiencing these gifts as a young child. And in 2012, I was working. I worked in the entertainment world, and I also was working in the medical field. And I had been hit by a car on foot while I was going to my work. I was working on a really big television show doing medical consulting because I had been working for many years in the television world and also in the medical field, making shows look as real as possible. And I was getting picked up by a car and I had gotten hit. And I went into a code blue and it was horrific. And I crossed over to the other side and lost function of all my body, which was my kidneys and everything. I think it was definitely completely out of body because they pronounced me gone. And I was seeing not only light flashing through my eyes, but I had a very hard pressure going through my chest, down my legs, and it was um, several minutes. They said I was completely gone, and I was in the hospital for 3 months. I
Mm.
did not leave, and when I left,
Wow.
when I left, I was 90 pounds. I
Mm.
went in, I was 135 pounds.
Mm. Wow. That's huge. Oh.
Yeah, and also I never went back to the life I had before, which I had built over a decade of working in the hospital and also working in the entertainment world, which was something I was super proud of doing. I don't know if you know what medical consulting is, but
Mhm.
I experienced not only a crossover experience in NDE or out of body, I experienced a transformation, which
Mhm.
was new speech, um, new walking, so when I left the hospital, I was not me anymore. I was transformation of a new dimension.
Can I jump into that,
Yeah.
scare you, or how did that feel when you left the hospital and you were a whole different person?
Yeah. I, at the time, I was with my partner who's also in the entertainment world. He's a very reputable editor and person and wonderful person. He didn't really, we didn't really know what was going on. Like, I didn't know the word NDE or out of body or anything. I just knew I had gone through this amazing heartbreaking situation and I
Mm.
didn't know what was happening to me. I was in a wheelchair still, but I couldn't really communicate or formulate words and I wasn't walking and I did know that I was experiencing something happening. And when I got home, I had to have a nurse and I had to recuperate some experience. I did know that I kept saying to him, I I saw God, saying we all experience God. I kept saying I saw God, and I kept saying I saw my grandma. I saw my grandma come to me, and he kept saying, "What do you mean?" And while I was in the hospital, I saw the rabbi, I saw the priest, I had spiritual people come visit me, and I had many seizures. I had many procedures done to me that were to keep me alive. While I was going through it all, I didn't really realize what was up ahead of me in my new life. And I did not know I was never going back to my old life.
So was it when you got home then that you had a knowing, like, I'm done? I'm curious when that came in, the knowing you were done with your life you had lived up to that point.
I That's a great question. I didn't actually know that I had left, the Kimberly had was no longer here anymore, and that I had been completely transformed and reawakened to my real self, like I was the reawakening of the blinking, like I was when I was a child, and I now had transformed who I really am now until after several months, 2014, from 12 to 14 is when I really had completely awakened. Um, when the blinking totally came completely in. And by that time, my partner had left me. because he couldn't handle the full-blown awakening.
Which happens. I've read about that. It's a lot. You went through a huge transformation, and it sounds like, yeah, he struggled with that huge transformation.
Yeah, I think when you start a life with a partner that's a certain way, and then they come into a new dimension and you're not used to that. Yeah. So I got discovered in my home. My agent, that was my booking agent, and came to visit me while I was recuperating. And I was in a wheelchair. Said, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "I'm disabled now." I still was in a collar. I had a lot of procedures done to me. I was very sick and very ill still, but I was starting to emit energy through my hands, healing. And I had a friend that was working on television and also an RN, and she was starting to do Reiki, pretty done with all the medication that I had been taking. And nothing was working. I threw it in the toilet, and he was going in for an operation, and he had a problem with his Achilles heel, and I was starting to get messages in my ear. I hear everything from the left ear. Spirit speaks to me, and I heard, "Heal him." And he had just come over to visit me. I put my hand on his Achilles heel and I said a prayer. And I was starting to hear messages from my ear, and getting blinking was starting to become more prominent. And I did a small little healing prayer on his heel, and he left. And he called me a couple days later. He said the hospital did a scan and x-ray and said it was healed.
That's amazing. I just want to say, going back to what you shared, when you go through such a huge life experience and make a change, I mean, that resonates with me from when I was working with Time Magazine, had a near-death experience on a Time Inc. corporate trip, whitewater rafting. And I got back to the Twin Cities where I live, and I was like, I was done. It was a knowing. And luckily my husband supported me, but it was a whole new venture then starting down this path. And that's when my vision, like you, opened up, and psychic abilities. And he stayed along for the ride, but wow, he questioned me. So I'm curious to hear, you started to be recognized as a healer, you had clarity, a new transformation, new life, and then you had a second near-death experience.
The second one was, I jumped over, but the second one was right after I came home for my medical intuitive psychic abilities woke up right after the second one was full blown wide open. Me becoming a medical intuitive psychic was all learned through the spirit team. And that was through hundreds and hundreds of people finding out about me through this apartment I'm living in right now. That was through my agent spreading the word throughout Los Angeles community at the Gold's Gym, coming to me at my house, and what's the bleep and the secret. There's finding me here, and me just scanning through people's bodies and knowing they had cancers and tumors and things through my blinking eyes, and then just getting discovered that way. But the second NDE happened within 4 weeks after my first one, and it was me just being so like not cautious. I went in the hospital at 135 pounds and came out at 90 pounds. And I was like not thinking. One day my nurse wasn't here like at a certain time, and I had an American Bulldog pit, and I had rescued him before I'd gone into the hospital, the first NDE, and I wasn't supposed to take him out for a walk, and he had to go to the bathroom. And I was thinking, well, I'll just take him out the front door for a second and then be right back. And I was very weak, and I took him out, and there was a gardener that walked by, and he had a blower, those blowers.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
And Rocky was a pit American Bull, and he was a recovering abused rescue. And he thought he was good with me, but he thought the gardener was going to attack us, and he lunged towards the gardener, and the gardener took the blower and lunged towards us. When he did that, Rocky accidentally threw me into the street, and I still was recovering from the surgery, and it cracked my head wide open into the back. And when that happened, it blew me wide open. And when it blew me wide open, it blew up all the guides and all the angels and all of everything. And I don't know if you've ever read about Edgar Cayce.
Love Edgar Cayce. Yeah.
And Edgar Cayce was someone that I never ever heard about. I didn't know anything like that. So I'm definitely like Edgar Cayce, where um Kimberly doesn't know much, but like you could put a book on me and I know everything. I know every single thing inside of your body, a root cause and like anything. And it's very easy for me, like just sort of like a singer or a songwriter just sits down and like does something like really fast. It's very easy for me just to like go over somebody's body and like know why you have everything wrong with you in like a second. So like after that, like Edgar, if you read about it, he was hit in the head. So I already was born with gifts, and then after that last one, it just blew me like wide open. So when that happened, Rocky laid over my body, and because he did that, I wasn't killed because there were literally cars driving around me that could have killed me. My relationship with Rocky was very interesting. I saved him, he saved me. He has saved literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people. He died, but he saved. If you knew how many people this animal has saved, because if he hadn't have done that, I don't think I would have had my full-blown awakening, because I find so much breast cancer and prostate cancer with people before they even know they have it. And because of that, Rocky has done that. I do a lot of animal communication and I do pre-existing healing, like findings. What people don't know is our brains are very, very advanced.
And I'm a big believer in dogs, their healing ability. It's just, I think they're such teachers. Yeah.
The second one blew it wide open.
Mm-hmm. And would you say, just a question about the second near-death experience, did you have even more clarity of like, I'm a healer, messages of some kind? I mean, I hear that it was like kind of the final step of your journey to become who you are today.
Well, after the second one, I like I said, I'm kind of like all out there with it. But like after the second one, after I went through the process of all of it, then I got discovered. I started hearing the messages coming in, and sort of I scribble on paper. So I started hearing and blinking and understanding what the codes and the messages were. So I do a lot of code frequency, like what's the left mean? And I would write it out. What's the right? And thank God I didn't listen to some people that were saying, you're blinking numbers and codes and frequencies and the angels are talking to you. That's kind of weird. Stop doing that. And my mom used to do that when I was little. She would hit me across the face and say, don't do that. It's almost like telling someone, you're bisexual, you're gay, you're weird. Like, don't do that. You can't be like that. Always told as a very young child, don't do that. I at 5 years old, I would tell people I'm reincarnated. I'm, I would heal a bird, like a bird died when I was really young. Like I remember like being like around 7, and I picked it up and it was dead. And a parental figure said, put that down, it's dead. And I said, no, it's not. And I remember I put my mouth and it came back. I remember the reaction was like, to answer your question, I find a lot of kids now, and even in the last few years, doing things like this and it's like exciting. It's like, this is the dimensions we are going into. And we'll get to why I named this book Awaken the Fifth Dimension.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear if you would share more. So your gifts are through your eyes blinking and hearing in your left ear. Can you tell us just a little more about that? How you get the data through your eyes? I'm just, yeah, whatever you
Okay.
can share with us. It's
Yeah.
fascinating and I'm curious.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The gifts are not through my eyes, actually. That's the communication. The,
Okay.
yeah, the communication, the downloads are through my eyes. My gifts are through the Holy Spirit, and that's the gift of healing. And that's not me. I'm not a part of it at all. I don't take any credit for anything.
So you're channeling, would you say, the energy's coming through you, the knowing, the healing?
I'm a full-blown trance channeler. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I'm not a part of any of it. I'm just an in-betweener. I'm a messenger of it all.
An interesting hearing, you said, particularly in your left ear. So when you hear it, you just kind of hear it on the left side, not inside through, but yeah, that's so fast because I as a mystic hear a lot, I get a lot, but I've never noticed, is it the left, the right? So that's so interesting.
Yeah, so when you're a psychic and a medium, not everybody that's a medium is a psychic, and not everybody that's a psychic is a medium, and not everybody's a trance channeler. Everybody has a different way of communicating with spirit.
Mhm.
And I happen to communicate with spirit through the left ear, and everybody has a different way of communicating.
Yep. Can you, for just a moment, for people listening, share what is the difference for between a psychic, a medium? I think people use those words interchangeably.
A medium communicates with the dead, the afterlife.
Okay.
Psychic has psychic abilities, like they'll touch into like, oh, I have a prediction of this, I have a prediction of that. Trance channeler goes deeper, like Edgar Casey. We trance. It's a deeper intuition. We're on a trance level. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like, I don't know, I can't think of all of them right now,
Mhm.
but Edgar Casey's a trance.
Yep.
I'm trance. I'm a trance channeler. Trance channelers are the lady that wrote Seth is a trance. So trances are very, we trance, we're very deep. We go in. I'm a walking trance medium, and I'm a psychic. The hurricane, I predict the fires, I predict a big awakening in 2035.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's helpful because I think
Some
I
people
hear
are,
interchange those
yeah.
words.
And so like when I do my psychic mediumship, like I do the medical stuff and find why somebody has cancer or why somebody had a GI tract infection or an ulcer. I don't think of the word, think of why they're getting it. And then unlike Edgar Casey, I take it a step further and I go into hearing them speak to the left ear. They'll say, heal them. And I go into healing, which is, I'm always trancing. The next step is I do the healing. And that's why I've been discovered by not only Norman Shealy, but Ions Institute and other institutions where they wanted to see me do the healing on people, which is why the book is called The Awakening to the Fifth Dimension.
Can you share with us the fifth dimension? What exactly do you mean by the fifth dimension? I mean, there are all these dimensions. Just would love to hear
Yeah.
you would say that. Name it.
Thanks, Catherine. So I didn't come up with that. Dimensions and theories and frequencies. I always say ride the frequency wave. The frequencies and the fifth dimension is something that they are speaking through me as a trance channel, and they work through me to show people to do and want them to do it more
Mhm.
and more in the fifth dimension. I started doing shortly after I survived the near-death experience. And I'm smiling because why are they choosing me to do this? And why did I survive? So because they just chose me to do it. So I started laying hands on people in rooms of 400, 500 all over the world. After I got better and started channeling and doing the medical intuitive work and laying hands and dissolving things off people, I started saying to people, say you're in the fifth dimension. And they would say, I'm in the fifth dimension. I started teaching people that we had to leave the third dimensional world. Third dimension is greed, fear, worry, selfishness, greed, low density feeling, everything you're witnessing right now.
Makes complete sense to me. Yep.
Now, that's in a spiritual sense. There's also, if you Google third dimension, there is another definition of 3D, which is in a geometry form of 3D. But I'm talking about a spiritual sense of third dimension. So, like if you go to the faucet and you turn on the water, that's third dimensional tap water. If you put a filter on it, then that's a fifth dimensional water, because you want to have everything as a pathway of fifth dimensional lifestyle. So there's everything, if you look at it in a fifth dimensional way, eating well organically is fifth dimension, having good relationships that are loving and kind and beautiful is fifth dimension, meditating every day is fifth dimensional, the organic type of vitamins is fifth dimensional. So everything has a fifth dimensional energy to it, but magic, feeling like you can heal faster is fifth dimensional. Being telepathic is fifth dimensional. There's many dimensions that we can go into. I do something called soul frequency readings right now, which are very beyond fifth dimensional. That is like even going higher. But what I'm getting at is where the fifth dimension came into for me is when I started actually doing fifth dimensional transformational work on people, where you're witnessing huge tumors and physical injuries inside of people's bodies and diseases dissolve instantaneously in the fifth dimension. Now, can it happen in the 3D? No, it cannot. It only happens when you are in the fifth dimension. Can it stay healed? Absolutely. I have had other injuries and other illnesses happen to me, besides other hundreds of clients that I have healed in the fifth dimension. Ask me, how do I get in there? How do I stay in there? And they learn the practice, and more people are starting to understand. You can Google it. You can go on TikTok. Everybody's saying, I'm in the fifth dimension. I want to be in the fifth dimension. It's how do you stay in that vibration and keep the frequency going and ride the frequency wave.
That resonates with me deeply. I'm curious how you would define the fourth dimension. So we talked about the third and the fifth. So what is the fourth dimension before you move into the fifth dimension?
The fourth dimension is really not being alone, really being in community. It's spirituality. It's, not, it's people. There's a lot of depression going on. There's a lot of sadness going on.
A lot.
When you isolate yourself, you're really keeping yourself at a disadvantage right now. So the fourth dimension is not a bad dimension. It's just not a magical dimension. It's not a dimension where you're actively learning telepathy. You're not learning remote viewing. You're not activating or stimulating your brain to like the highest you could get. We want you to at least get to the fifth dimension, but we don't want you to isolate. My guides are saying, I work with the Ra team. I work with the Elohim team. We want to really build your intimacy with the energy of God. A lot of people don't like the word God. Some people do love the word God, but God has many names. God is source. Get on the source wagon. Ride with that frequency wave. There's so many frequencies for you to be involved with, and there's so many loving people out there. So when I talk about the Christ consciousness, they're saying we want more divine consciousness. What we want is that you to understand that the guides are saying, we've had a lot of masculine energy in our world. As we look in the third dimension right now, we have so much masculine. We like masculine, but we want more divine feminine. I started saying the other day, and people were laughing, the divine Christ, instead of Christ consciousness, we're saying divine consciousness. Because when we look at right now the world, we want to have this kindness. this sweetness. Now, when we look at masculine energy, they keep giving me a negative link because this is yes, this is no. Why not have a masculine energy that we get turned on by? Sweetness and kindness, gentleness. That's also masculine. That our universe is emotionally available for kindness and lovingness. And this is a beautiful universe that we all can live in that's non-judgmental.
And would you say where I've landed on all this is that Christ consciousness, divine consciousness, it is love. It is. It's just the embodiment of radiant love. And I'm curious your thought on that. And then the fourth dimension, I'm hearing community, but would you also say in the fourth dimension, people are connecting with God, source, higher power, whatever that language is?
Yes, that fourth dimension is individually, collectively gaining speed and moving their self into a ripple effect. They are actually developing skills and actively participating and wanting to learn more. They are actually developing, and I'm seeing because I'm around a lot of people that are not that spiritual, but they're more excited about learning about it, saying, I want to learn to meditate. I want to learn about the chakras. How do I learn about the chakras? And that's in the Awakening to Fifth Dimension book, but also a lot of other spiritual teachers and a lot of other people are so excited about teaching this, helping people. It's like, get up at 7 a.m. Yes, we exercise, but guess what? Exercise is not enough. We need to also meditate. It's okay to hold crystals. It's okay to, yes, we're human. We get triggered. We can slip back to 3D, but we can pop back into the fifth dimension.
So would you say, if I'm hearing you correctly and reading your books, I love your book, by the way, I read it a few years ago. So that was fun. But fourth dimension, you're searching, you're seeking, it's opening, and maybe fifth dimension, it's you're grounded in that oneness with the divine and living from there. Would that be accurate?
I feel like in the fifth dimension, you're really connected to source. You could be connected to source in the third dimension also. But you're going to have more fluctuations of being triggered more. When you practice a daily meditation and you're practicing the key thing when you're in 5D, you are always in service. You're always helping other people. And you're always feeling like you've witnessed a miracle. Miracles are more natural. Miracles are a daily occurrence for you. You're like, oh God, I just felt that. Oh God, that happened. That's a sign. That's a symbol. That's something that's going on. I see the 11s. I see the 4s. I see the 3s. They're lining up for you more. Everything's in the divine gratitude. So I do this flow chart, a 1 to 5 flow chart. And the people that I know that are in divine gratitude and sync always fall in the 5. People that are in the 3 are always complaining. They're always upset. There's always something happening where they're not writing their 5 things that they're grateful for and the 5 things that they're going to do to help somebody else out, or doing something that's helping them to raise their vibration, because everything is a frequency.
Amen. Everything. Yep. Emotions, energy, frequency, all of it. Yep.
Yeah.
For everyone listening right now, one, and I know your book from reading it and rereading it, you have practices. I mean, would you share just one takeaway for listeners today to help them open more into the third, the fourth, the fifth? Is it gratitude? Is it feeling love? I mean, you have a lot of practices you share. I'm just curious if there's one that really stands out.
I'd say, I feel like the one that's most important is that if you had a loved one that crossed over, or and you remember something they did for you that you felt a feeling in your heart that you felt really connected to, or you missed them or something like that, put a picture out of them, or try to communicate with them from the afterlife because they're there for you. If you feel sad or you feel like you're not getting to something that you want in your life, or maybe it's abundance, or maybe you're lacking something at the moment, because everybody's going to go through something in their life. Nobody here has everything they want all the time, and everybody's going to have some ups and downs in the next year. Call on that grandma or mother, or, this is what I do. I work online. I work at the center, and I work with people that have had children to suicide. I work with the afterlife, and I work with people here. And they're telling me from the other side, you're not alone. They love you. They're here for you. And believe it or not, they're working for you from the
Mhm,
other side, and
mhm.
they want to help you. The 8, the infinity sign. That means they we never leave. So because I left and I came back, I know how it feels over there. And it feels real comfy and safe and beautiful. And they're saying, we never leave. We're here and we love you. If you want to connect and have your life move like this, easy and smooth, connect to someone from the afterlife that you love. And if it's your grandma, like me, I'm very connected. My book was dedicated to my grandma. Do some connection like that to the afterlife. Do some connection to a parent or whoever you're missing.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I share as also a mystic and intuitive and having
Yes,
near-death experience that every one of us listening, if they come into the moment, the
yes.
stillness, we drop out of our busy, fast chattering mind, every one of us can sense, see, feel, hear, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient. I mean, we all have it, but it's not found in our mind. But it starts with just finding some stillness. Yeah, coming into the moment.
Everybody deserves a miracle healing. Everybody deserves to have connections to the afterlife
Mhm,
and also awaken their own intuitive abilities.
mhm.
And you are absolutely correct, Catherine.
Yeah. I know we're getting to the end of our time. I haven't even gotten to half the questions I wanted to ask you. This is just organically coming to me to ask you. In my private practice, I'm hearing every week, I just heard it this morning, a client say, oh my gosh, the dysregulation, the chaos in the world, and then they're getting dysregulated. I mean, there's so much unease in the world right now. Do you have a suggestion for people listening right now, how to help them, everyone that's feeling this unease, to find more peace, more grounding?
Um, like I said, I think every day I met like every day for like the last years, I've been meditating. So I think it's really important to take those moments to connect with source, take a time out from the social media, take time out and just relax and get into that 5D. Make time for yourself, self-care.
Mm,
Um, but also don't get too self-absorbed. Make time for service,
mm,
getting out of your mind, monkey mind, get into the heart and do something for someone else. Don't get stuck in self-isolating, get in community,
mm,
get with friends, like-minded friends, and don't get stuck, think out of the box. Just because you're hearing Kimberly, I don't like to tell people who to love. I don't like to tell people what to do or what to believe. So if I'm saying this happened, right? And even though Kimberly's been tested, did this really happen? Did this really dissolve? Go witness it. Go look at it. Go really see it. Seeing is believing. And when I talk about miracles and magic, this is really happening. Just the way you're seeing third dimensional things happen right now, all this stuff that's going on, that you're seeing is real. Well, guess what? The magic of things dissolving off people's bodies and the healing that's taking place, and that I'm sitting here right now, that is real too. Amen.
Amen. And it's, I think, being open. And isn't what you're sharing
Yeah,
It
think about it.
aligns with the Surgeon General. We're in the loneliness epidemic. And what are some of the key ways to work with it? Community, helping others, serving others, finding that sense of just some love, connection, huge. I mean,
Yeah,
I think the reason we're here on this earth is to love and keep
yeah,
opening our heart and keep learning to love. And I think that's what we take with us when we die. And I saw that with thousands of people as they died, just this radiant light around them that then zoom, went out of the room. It was just spectacular.
yeah. And I think what's so cool is that both of our books title is Awakening.
Hmm.
Really interesting too is the awakening is right now. And then also what's really amazing is that this book, my first book, um, the back of the book are all these documented miracle healings. And the publishing company, which is Macmillan, they witnessed these healings, which is so exciting. If you could do healing with your hands, just imagine what is going to happen from a decade from now.
Exactly. Well, it's so interesting because my book, Everyday Awakening, it was already in the publisher's hand. And then I was Googling, like, what books? And that somehow your book popped up. I'm like, so yeah, lovely.
So my takeaway is that I want you, everyone that's listening to this, to have a beautiful awakening and healing.
Mhm. Okay, I have one more question. I end my podcast always asking, what do you think awakening is? Obviously, we're already been discussing it through this whole show. If you just offered a sentence or two or three on the definition of awakening, what you think awakening means, what would you say?
I feel awakening is, I feel like an awakening for your own self is discovering inside of your own soul's journey, inside of your own consciousness, awakening your own consciousness path. And I think it's your own personal soul's journey into that self because that's your own divine consciousness. Everybody has their own personal
Mm,
awakening. Yeah, I do feel
thank
that.
you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. That just like, oh, that resonates deeply with me. You are such a bright light. It is so lovely to know you and call you, a new friend. And I just thank you so much for coming on. I would love to, maybe we could come on a show again because I didn't even get to half the things I wanted to ask you. But thank
Beautiful,
you.
beautiful sister. You're a beautiful light. I love your book. And it just I just love. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Bless you. You're such a blessing in this world. Thank you for coming on my show. Thank you so much for joining Everyday Awakening. Let's keep the conversation going online. You can follow me on Instagram at Catherine Duncan, MABCC. And to keep up to date on the show, subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. I'd love to hear from you.